You know, Drake and Josh was a really good show. And it definitely zoomed by faster than we all expected, especially given it was 60 episodes over the course of like 3 or 4 years, but it was like really quick. And now that we're looking back years later, we try to find all the information that kind of tied everything together. And I've made this mistake on some of my other videos. We have to really start talking about air dates and production codes, because looking back, that's kind of all the information we have on them. And to find out that the finale of Drake and Josh was not the last thing aired, but the helicopter episode, like, this is where we really got to get into it. There we go. Because air dates and production codes are completely different. One prioritizes continuity, character arcs, and everything that you want in a story. And then there's production codes, which are the actual filming dates of these shows. So, quick learning lesson, production codes are what the network orders. So like 13 episodes in a first season. You could choose to start your first production on episode 3 so you get the hang of your show before you get to the pilot, which is kind of a cool idea because they don't really care until they get the batch of the whole season. It's like an order of like raviolis. You get 16. It doesn't matter which order they're in. But to people like you and me who care about story and want to figure out what happened when it did, this actually really comes into play. Are you guys following me so far? So they film in a way that's best for the cast and crew, and ideally you would air the pilot and film the pilot first, or you expect that, but sometimes they're completely isolated from their intention. Like imagine the 7-Eleven got a whole batch of Baja Blasts and then the people working there are just like, let me take episode 13 and put it at the front of the shelf. Somebody's gonna buy that first. It's not the writers or the show's fault, it's 7-Eleven's. The network that bought these episodes could do whatever they want with them, and that's where air dates come in. So production codes, when they made them, air dates, when they aired them. And it's only really annoying when fans like us notice continuity issues, character inconsistencies, like things that we actually care about as consumers of these products. Because the network is like, no, we just need to focus on what hooks people and what keeps them staying. And they do not care about story as much as that. This is 4 seasons over the course of 3 years, when a normal sitcom would be like a season a year. Kids shows are different. They didn't have to be that much. And Drake and Josh did a little bit less episodes than the usual sitcom. So the gaps in between these shows, I learned, were actually only like a couple months. Instead of being spread out, they were released quicker than normal TV. That's probably why people like you and I actually think there were more episodes than there were, because it was all dropped on us in a quick 3 years, and we didn't really care about how we received it. Like on YouTube, when a video comes out and it isn't a hit right away, but then it stays for a while and actually becomes more popular years after. It's very similar with air dates. For context, Drake and Josh went from 2004 to 2007 over 4 seasons. Then more than a year after the season finale, we got the Drake and Josh Christmas movie. So one of the first things that fans notice about Drake and Josh is how oddly spaced the seasons were. Like season 1 ran from January to February 2004, but instead of a long hiatus, season 2 actually premiered 3 weeks later in mid-March 2004. This is like a rush turnaround, essentially. Nickelodeon treated the short first season as a test run and jumped into more episodes. In contrast, after season 2's finale in November 2003, season 3 didn't begin until April 2005, a gap of like 4 months. So the break didn't really feel like a traditional hiatus because it was so short, and the viewers didn't really anticipate the next season because it wasn't on a week-by-week basis. Because season 3 was spread out over a full year. That's why some of us probably loop in season 1 and 2 as like one season. By the time season 4 rolled around, the show had shifted to a fall schedule. This gap was not extreme by TV standards though. But what came after was the final batch of episodes in season 4 were delayed and spread out pretty unusually. Fans watched the supposed grand finale in August 2007 and then had to wait over a month to see one last episode in mid-2000s, in mid-September. Yeah, so we all watched Really Big Shrimp expecting that to be a really conclusive ending, and then out of nowhere, Helicopter comes out. What? So new episodes of Drake and Josh were dropping a year after production had reportedly wrapped up, and it just kind of felt like the show just kept popping up at times that were pretty unpredictable. The first 6 episodes of the show were pretty average, like the pilot was filmed first and then every episode in chronological order. But then when we get to season 2, we learn that The Bet, which is the original season finale, the one we went over in my video, was actually the production code of episode 2, meaning that the first episode was guitar. Which is kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about that. I think the guitar episode was less strong than the bet episode. Like, the bet was so funny. Of course they aired it as a season premiere. They wanted people to keep watching. Drake and Josh was not that popular at that time yet. Definitely the better choice. I would prefer a plot with both the characters being more involved as opposed to guitar, where it's like Drake then Josh, and you know what I mean. Viewers would not have known the difference between the production list and the stories. Were kind of self-contained, so we didn't really have an issue, but it's a fun fact that the network purposely swapped the order of the debut episodes. Throughout season 2, the airing sequence also continued to shuffle. Like, Little Diva was aired earlier than some episodes that were produced before it. This led to a one-time oddity where Helen, the theater manager, was looking different, and Helicopter and Dance Contest came out after Really Big Shrimp. And I remember at that age, I definitely didn't think it was even ending. I just know that the last episode I saw was the Dance Contest. Because it turns out the Dance Contest and Helicopter kind of gave me the impression that Drake and Josh was still going, that wasn't really a finale and it didn't conclude anything. It's caused like a weird continuity hiccup because Really Big Shrimp had Josh and Mindy reconciling and then Josh getting a promotion at the movie theater among closure with the other characters, yet then we see Helicopter with no mention of these developments. So it's like, for the audience, it felt like the show had 2 finales, a climactic one and then a lighthearted episode, or epilogue as you prefer to call it. The show's creators confirmed that it was written as the finale, and Nickelodeon just chose not to air it that way. Okay, thanks Nickelodeon. Prime example of network scheduling. Nickelodeon used its tendency to shuffle episodes even further in the 4th season of Drake and Josh, the one I'm doing a retrospective on right now. That's how I noticed this so intensely. Like, the famous season 4 premiere, Josh Runs Into Oprah, was actually like the 5th episode of that season. They knew the stunt would like kind of draw attention, so of course you would put that first. That is one of the funniest episodes in season 4. Even more confusing, sometimes they added new episodes in a single night. Notably, Blues Brothers and Driver's License were on the same evening of release. An hour of new Drake and Josh, which is exciting for fans, but you have a little bit less new material. It was like almost like the show was like a testing round for Nickelodeon to figure out what worked and what didn't when it came to airing stuff. And season 3 even paused for that movie, Drake and Josh Go Hollywood, which was cool. So we're not quite sure in the continuity where that comes into play, though it was aired in January 2006. Yeah, I don't know what that means. So instead of airing regular episodes during the winter, Nickelodeon held off on the primetime movie event and then resumed the season's episodes afterward. It didn't really affect the continuity for this one, but it was a different viewing experience to have a TV movie in the midst of a season. It kind of doesn't build up to it. You know, another fun tidbit, the series would sometimes reference past episodes or make in jokes that only eagle-eyed fans caught because of the airing order. Like in the final episode that aired, Dance Contest, a random girl runs up to Drake and Josh and kisses them, which is a girl from the first season. It's so cool. And it's finally worth noting that the series finale was kind of the biggest deal. Like, the Drake and Josh ending was a travesty. But then again, as mentioned, a few weeks later, we still got other episodes. Overall, the airing of Drake and Josh was like anything but ordinary. I'm so curious what was going on behind the scenes when they took individual season breaks because of how much changed within one season to another, most notably Josh. Like, can you imagine if a season 3 episode were aired in season 2? So season 1 was the inaugural season containing 6 episodes, with all of them going in the same order. Then season 2 had a little bit more discrepancies, like the bet, as I mentioned, and then Guitar being the first episode. With Blues Brothers and Driver's License airing on the same night with completely different production codes, it's even more confusing. Season 3 would continue this trend, with Peruvian Puff Pepper actually being episode 1, with the Drake and Josh in being episode 5. This out-of-sequence airing probably was because the Drake and Josh in episode was funnier. It's the final season that had the most deviations, like Megan's Revenge was produced as the first episode and aired as mid-season. The discrepancies between production numbers and air dates are just crazy all around, and I'm really having fun diving into more of that as I get older. One of the biggest mistakes I made was talking about the Sweet Life pilot, but then I talked about the episode that aired first, not the episode that was filmed first. And small details like that are kind of annoying, but like also really interesting to me because it's like what was originally intended. So let's go over the actual correct ordering to things. specifically for season 4, because that's the one that has the most discrepancies. So the real order for season 3 starts with Peruvian Puff Pepper as episode 1, We're Married as episode 2, then Mindy's Back, The Affair, then the Drake and Josh In. We got Playing the Field and Helen's Surgery, Foam Finger, Paging Dr. Drake, Sheep Thrills, Girl Power, Little Siblings, and Megan's New Teacher as the 13th episode, Theater Thug, The Demonator, and Alien Invasion, ending with The Dr. Phyllis Show, which is as we expected. Season 4 started with Megan's Revenge, then went to Vicious Tiberius, then Mindy Loves Josh, The Great Doheny, then Josh Runs into Oprah, My Dinner with Bobo, I Love Sushi, Treehouse, Who's Got Game, Helicopter as the 10th episode, The Storm as the 11th, and The Wedding as the 12th, which is so funny because they were such simple and closely aligned plots. Like, they filmed them right next to each other. And then this is where it gets correct. Steered Straight as episode 14, Josh is Done as 15, The Battle of Panthar 16, Eric Punches Drake as 17, Megan's First Kiss as the final episode before Really Big Shrimp. Are you surprised? I definitely am, and it's really cool to think that this is actually how it went.
Some boys have dogs. Some boys have frogs. Bill Dippy has... Can we keep him? Caveman?
Disney Channel has done hilarious things in the past, but nothing was funnier than their productions versus their air codes for Phil of the Future. This is the biggest air date and production code discrepancy I've ever seen. Studio executives would air episodes before or after the writers intended, and you'll never see a case that is as freaky as Phil of the Future. What they did to this show is exactly why I like talking about this stuff. This is the most drama I've ever seen. In television production, every episode is assigned a production code, an internal identifier that indicates the order in which the episodes were produced. These codes help the studio and network keep track of episodes during filming and post-production. However, the air date is the date that the network actually chose to air it, meaning that they might air them sometimes out of production order, disrespecting the writers, making the directors cry. Basically, the episode's production code and air date could contradict one another. In Disney Channel series Phil of the Future, which ran from 2004 to 2006 and totaled 43 episodes, which is actually pretty good for a show that only had 2 seasons. They were definitely a victim of the productions versus air dates debacle. In season 1, not a single episode aired in the order it was produced. Disney Channel even premiered the show with the block of 4 episodes on the same night, none of which were the pilot episode in production terms. Isn't that insane? So the production codes for season 1 range from 101 to 121 because there was 21 episodes in that first season. Disney aired the episodes in a very different sequence than was intended. Like the episode Future Tutor, which carries the production code 101, meaning it was the first episode produced, or the pilot, it didn't air first. Instead, it was broadcast as the 10th episode on August 13th, 2004. In fact, Disney Channel held back the pilot and packaged it with 2 other episodes. The one Future Jock and Say Tomato, as a 3-episode event later in the summer. By that point, viewers had already seen 9 other adventures of the Diffie family before ever seeing the official introductory episode. Meanwhile, episodes like Corner Pocket, with the production code of 103, that must have been produced really early, but it didn't end until the end of the season in 2005. With the season finale being Team Diffie, the code of 116, the 16th episode out of 21.
Phil, you know, you're pretty sassy for a guy whose family is depending on me for a ride home.
What are you saying? What if I don't do your stupid prank? You're not taking us back to 2121?
Your friend's pretty smart.
Well, he has an A- average. Yeah.
Look.
It aired on October 28th, 2005, which was 2 months after season 2 had already begun. We'll delve more into the odd scheduling choice later, but it's clear from the first season that the broadcast was already completely shuffled. But season 2's episodes were also aired out of sequence, though generally the discrepancies were a little bit smaller than the first. So in season 2, you could see many instances where the production codes are slightly out of order. especially considering the air date. The intended first episode of Season 2 with the production code of 201 was Virtue Date, and it was actually held back to air when the second produced episode, code 202, Versa Day, was chosen to premiere the season, which is funny because they sound exactly the same. Why would you name two episodes right next to each other such similar names? Disney Channel often did a kind of 2-day premiere. Swapping those gave the season a body swap comedy as the opener, perhaps like a stronger hook, and then the virtual reality dating episode the following night. Like, these are such interesting choices. Episodes 24 and 25, The Giggle and Dinner Time, had their production order swapped. They were originally episodes 3 and 4. Some season 2 episodes were actually delayed much longer, like Happy Nerd Day, which is the production code of 209, was produced relatively early and didn't air until late of March 2006 on the 18th episode of the season, way long after the episode. Meanwhile, Ill of the Future, which was code 212, was saved for the final summer stretch in 2006. Notably, the last 2 episodes, Not So Great Great Grandpa, and the finale, Back to the Future Not the Movie, I didn't even realize that was the name of their finale, that's actually hilarious, have production codes 221 and 222, and did air last, preserving their intended order. These 2 were among the only ones in the whole series that aired in the production sequence. Isn't that insane? I bet at the time Disney was so new to all this television producing, they're like, we think we know what's best for the episode order. Like, you guys, we hired the writers to write it, and now we're going to just play with the finished product, because we have it. Not so dissimilar to today, when you're like making YouTube videos and put them on the internet. Like, you could sometimes put them in different orders. The pilot wasn't aired first, and that's kind of like one of the bigger deals. The fact that it was pushed to a mid-season special, by the time it aired, viewers already met the characters through their stories, so it was like kind of weird to even have done that. But it makes sense that they wanted to start with more immediately engaging episodes, because back at the time you couldn't just put on Netflix and have all the TV episodes right there. Like, you only got a couple instances in which the show was exposed to you for you to realize if you like it or not. And obviously, every step is a chance that you could lose a viewer, so you would just give it your best in order. The network ran 4 episodes back-to-back from 7 to 8:30 p.m. on June 18th, 2004. Those were actually episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order, none of which were the first produced, though.
Rolster?
Very gentlemanly of you. Phil, I've got it, thank you.
Phil, normal?
On a few occasions, Disney aired 2 new episodes instead of just 1. Like, on the same night, they had Tia Via or Mia and Get Ready to Go Go, both premiering on August 5th, 2005. In some of these cases, those were slightly out of production order, like a bunch of other ones we talked about. A few episodes have conspicuously later air dates, which I don't understand why it happened. Another example would be like Corner Pocket. That episode is nearly at the end of season 1. Meanwhile, it is one of the first produced episodes at production code 103, season 1, episode 3. One of the biggest continuity shifts in the series is when Phil reveals to his best friend Keeley that he and his family are from the future. Many earlier episodes had already shown Keeley acting as if she knew Phil's secret. In fact, fans note that Phil of the Future's first 9 episodes portray Keeley as being in on the Phil time-traveling origins, making the formal on-screen revelation in episode 11 or 12 that felt belated. Like, that was so weird. The tone of their friendship and lack of secrecy in earlier aired episodes suggested that the writers were treating Keeley as a trusted confidant even before they had Phil confide within her. When the big reveal episode happened, it was like anticlimactic because her behavior in prior episodes implied she was already aware, so we knew what would have happened. Beyond specific plot points, the overall progression and character relationships might have felt slightly out of sync to attentive viewers. Like, Phil and Keeley's relationship subtly deepens over season 2, culminating in them finally becoming a couple in the finale. If Happy Nerd Day had any earlier dynamic between Phil and Keeley, it centers on Phil making up or forgetting Keeley's birthday in the past. It might momentarily feel like a step back in the arc. The show's writers generally kept each episode self-contained, so it didn't really severely disrupt a lot of other things. A lot of plot lines. Although introductory being so scattered is just so hard to let go. Aside from the theme song, Disney really had to have gambled that audiences would pick up on the sci-fi backstory on the fly and just kind of go with whatever's happening. I mean, being a comedy, I could see why you would want that to be the case, but you need to have a little bit more of a backbone to it, especially if you're going to do a series that has that premise. The best part of all of this is that the finale of the show was in its intended order. Not only was it given that for the actors and the crew when they filmed it as the final production code, the final episode that was released was that. It makes it more meaningful, you know? God, it's so weird to think about how episodes airing in a certain order makes such a difference to us now. Like, it's literally 10, 20 years later and it's just us guessing numbers that could have potentially been out of order. It's just crazy that there's like a whole section of the internet that finds this so fascinating. In Zoey 101, this meant many episodes were shot in one sequence but aired in another, creating some subtle continuity quirks. So we're gonna dive into the 3-digit numbers that are the production codes of these TV shows like 101, 102, and reveal the original filming order and figure out what's hidden behind it. Here we go. So in season 1, we have a lot of swaps. Like, for example, Webcam, which was produced at 105, was actually the 3rd episode in the season.
She's eating a plastic plant.
But it was filmed after defending Dustin with the production code of 103.
Spell you faster than pigtails on a giraffe. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
And The Play with the production code of 104.
I'm projecting!
Next.
Similarly, JetX 106 was aired after Prank Week 108. These switches meant that scenes shot earlier showed up later on TV, which it wasn't that big of a deal. So the real order in which things meant to go were Welcome to PCA 101, 102 New Roommates, 103 Defending Dustin, 104 The Play, 105 Webcam, 106 JetX, 107 Spring Fling, 108 Prank Week, number 9 Quinn's Date, Backpack, School Dance, and apparently it was always intended on ending with 113 Little Beach Party, which is ridiculous. I wish they had an excuse, because that was a lame first season finale. But yeah, so it's so much more different than what I intended, even from my first retrospective on it. But honestly, they did do a good job reordering them. I felt like the way I watched them was fair for everyone. Thank God it was mostly episodic, so the out of order shuffling had minimal plot impact, except for the fact that there was some really annoying parts of this series. A casual viewer wouldn't even notice many of these story breaks, so it's all good. So then we get to season 2, which had a lot of episodes aired in different sequences and filmed. Like, obviously The Haunted House, which was produced at 206, was aired in October 29th.
Are you trying to scare them to death?
Yeah, pretty much.
So it was filmed after Bad Girl, episode 204.
Wish people would throw more quarters in here. I'm sick of pennies, nickels, and dimes.
And Girls Will Be Boys, which was number 211, premiered on January 29th, even though it was after Robot Worlds 205 initially.
Why must I sit in a tub of ice?
The Spring Break finale, Spring Breakup, did air as a 2-part finale in March, bridging this whole gap. It introduced a lot of new dynamics, like Lola joining in Back to PCA as the first episode, but the main Zoe-Chase relationship stayed friendly. The shuffle of the episodes had a little narrative impact, but not that much. Most stories were self-contained again, just like season 1, except for obviously that holiday episode. Prank Week and Election fit school calendar timing, which was interesting. In fact, holiday episodes were aired seasonally appropriate already, so they didn't have to change too much. This season did a good job with making it seasonally appropriate, like the Halloween episode aired in October, Prank Week and Election came during like the same time it did in high schools, and the Spring Break episode even came out in March, so it was kind of perfect. And I remember it when it came out, like it definitely was like a Spring Break type special, especially getting excited for whatever's gonna happen between Zoe and Chase for the first time at the end of season 2. But yeah, the anomalies are highlighted by a few swapped episode pairs. I'm not going to go through every single one because it didn't do that many disruptions, but it maintained itself. And then we get to season 3. So this went on for 2 years. One of the longest seasons of the show. It's 2006 to 2008, and they actually had 25 episodes. Notable out of order episodes were Quarantine, which is funny looking back. It had the production code of 304, so it was filmed early in the season, but it aired after 312 and 313. In fact, it was released as a bonus on the season 1 DVD before even airing on TV. When it finally aired in March 2007, it showed Zoey missing a date. A bit jarring because this was meant to come earlier in the timeline. Dance Contest was 321 before its later episodes, which were Favor Chain.
I think I'm starting to pass out. I smell toast.
And Zoey's Ribs, which aired from September 23rd to the 29th.
That how your grandma does it?
Yeah. Let me show you how she takes out the trash.
The group's dynamics around these events therefore jump around a bit for the people who actually pay attention. The two-part Curse of PCA is production code 308 and 309, and then it kind of served as like a mid-season finale as season 3 episode 15 and 16, which is crazy how long it took.
Butt face. Did you call me butt face?
No, it's just your butt.
Season 3 was split into 2 parts by Nickelodeon, summer 2007 and then late 2007, kind of like Victorious was. So the radio 314 and Page at PCA 318 debuted in the summer of 2007, months after the fall episode, so there was like a huge gap. Season 3 sees Zoey and Chase's relationship coming to a head, with Chase breaking up with Rebecca and Chase's girlfriend, which was actually produced at episode 302, and ultimately confesses his love in the finale Goodbye Zoey, which remained at episode 324 and 325, respectively. Nickelodeon's scheduling conflict also reflects seasonal themes like the Halloween episode Hot Dean, which was produced at 303, and then Thanksgiving episodes aired around late November, and after March 2007, the show took a summer hiatus, then would come back with Summer of Quiz episodes in July and August, like the radio again. It would continue into the fall, and season 3's out-of-order production episodes delayed Quarantine probably the most, but fans figured that out because apparently they were able to piece together the continuity from context. Oh, then we hit the final season, season 4 of Zoey 101. This did have the most dramatic swap as its season premiere. Trading Places was its beginning with the production code of 406, and then it goes to Fake Roommate 401. Fake Roommate must have been the first one filmed.
I'm back!
Trading Places was the 6th episode and aired as the first. In the streaming production order, it would be much later, and Nickelodeon essentially launched season 4 with an episode filmed late in production. Other than that though, the air dates actually align a little bit better, like 401 to 405 in order, except for Walkathon, which is 407 and skips ahead of 406 and 405.
24 hours. Else.
Season 4 wraps up all major arcs, like Zoey and Chase begin in different continents, and they remain long distance, which is really frustrating because their relationship was just so doomed from the start.
Zoey transferred back to PCA?
Chase moved to England?
I guess just Trading Places set up the status quo a lot earlier when they needed it. The Romeo and Juliet style romance, like Zoey with James, Quinn with Logan, builds steadily, and by the 2-part finale Chasing Zoey, which were 412 and 413, all of the arcs resolve, like Zoey and James break up, Quinn and Logan publicly pair up, and audiences experience everything mostly in a logical sequence.
Stir the tuna. Why do you keep saying that? Stomp the grapes. And that.
But there was also Turbo Nick streaming. Like, Nickelodeon premiered a couple of season 4 episodes online. Anger Management was produced at 404 and was posted to Turbo Nick 4 days before its TV air.
Cantaloupe, but we have rules against eating food during class, so I...
Same thing with Rumor of Love, also streamed earlier. This scheduling choice was to drive Nickelodeon's website views, which is so funny to look back on, thinking that they're just trying to get people to go on the internet, and now you can't get people off of the internet. The early web release did not affect the continuity, but it shows that the network mixed broadcasting and digital strategies in 2008. That's how you could notice that giant shift. So all around, Zoey 101 often aired episodes non-sequentially. Looking at all the production codes versus the original air dates, keeping the out of order, in order situation, it's just a mess. And this one is crazy. It's not as bad as Victorious, but it's still pretty ridiculous.
My life is an endless vortex of pain.
They kept most of their story arcs remaining mostly intact, thanks to the show's light serialization and the fact that major developments were kept in the proper way, but otherwise no less a victim to this network scheduling debacle. But what did you guys think? Do you think that they did Zoey 101 really wrong? Like, maybe this ruined the show and it could have been perceived a lot better? Or are you like me and you're like, no matter what, this show stinks. I hate this show. I'll watch it and I'll devote all my time to it, but I hate it. Yeah, that's just my relationship with Zoey 101.
Yeah, it's not good.
Why some of these were mismatched makes me think that the writers really didn't have as much of a say as we thought. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for more original air dates versus production codes, you could check out my channel, and if you want to see any more 2000s nostalgia, I've got you covered. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. What's up, everybody? So in the world of television, things aren't always filmed and aired in the same order. Nickelodeon's hit show iCarly from 2007 to 2012 is a prime example. Many of the episodes were broadcast out of sequence in which they were originally intended. This can sometimes have some story issues, or I don't know, it makes an issue for people who care about the continuity. So let's dive into the episodes of iCarly that actually mattered in being outside of their production order, how to spot the differences between the codes and the air dates, and what it meant for the continuity. And there is some crazy stuff.
What's your game?
Okay.
We'll explore each of iCarly's 6 seasons and highlight the most notable mismatches. Like specials I Go to Japan, I Saved Your Life, IOMG, and I Party with Victorious. There's just so many episodes of the show we could cover, and consider Nickelodeon's scheduling strategy, from the TV rating sweeps to crossovers and special event tie-ins. So before we dive into iCarly, let's clarify production codes and air dates. Here we go. The production code is an identifier assigned to each filmed episode, often numbered sequentially in the order that they were filmed. The air date is when the network actually chose to put out the episode. Ideally, shows air episodes in the order they were produced, but that's not always the case. Networks sometimes air episodes out of production order for various reasons, like a holiday-themed episode or highly anticipated ratings period. Maybe even post-production delays, like the guest star schedules or something, I don't know. Even with iCarly's crossover with Victorious, I'm sure that was an important one. So Dan Schneider, the creator of iCarly, has acknowledged this practice that some episodes might not be in the order they were produced, which causes continuity error. For example, an episode that was filmed later in the show, like a prop or character development that aired earlier than intended, feels inconsistent, and iCarly was definitely the forefront of some of these quirks. So in season 1 from 2007 to 2008, we have the whole beginning of the web show. The first season introduces Carly, Sam, and Freddie and their wacky web show. 25 episodes were produced in season 1, but they did not air in the order they were filmed. In fact, due to the unusually large initial order and the looming writer's strike in late 2007, Nickelodeon ended up shuffling around many of the early episodes, all but one of the first season's episodes reportedly aired out of order, which made continuity a challenge. The table below shows each season 1 episode with its production code and the usual US air date. So immediately you could spot some episodes that aired out of order. For example, I Like Jake was the 4th episode aired, but carries the production code 102, meaning it was the 2nd episode they filmed all together. Meanwhile, I Dream of Dance, that montage-style dance sequence episode, which I thought was just an acid trip dream, I don't know what the heck that was produced much later at 113, but it was aired as the 3rd episode. Do you guys remember when it aired on Nickelodeon, this whole dance sequence thing?
I'm gonna dance.
I think it was also tied in with that Drake and Josh dance contest episode. It was such a nice time. Nickelodeon paired the pilot, which is 101, and I Want More Viewers, which is 103, together on the premiere night in September 8th, 2007, likely to launch the series with the two strongest episodes. They skipped over 102, I Like Jake, and even jumped ahead to a higher numbered episode for week 2. According to trivia, I Dream of Dance being episode 3 despite its 113 production code means it was literally the 13th episode filmed, but showed 3rd. One notable continuity glitch in season 1 involves Sam's locker. Like I Like Jake, Sam mentions how she switched lockers with another student, but in I Dream of Dance, which aired right before it, Sam is seen using her old locker in that episode, contradicting this to change. The iCarly wiki points out this continuity error is because the episodes were aired out of order and had the episodes aired in production order, which means it is completely the culprit. There were some small inconsistencies, like Spencer's hair length and props in the studio fluctuate slightly early, but overall the story impact was pretty minor for season 1, and the episodes were kind of self-contained. Why the shuffling though? Season 1's out-of-order airings was partially due to production circumstances. Like Nickelodeon ordered a huge batch of 20 plus episodes for season 1, something that was completely not common at the time. Drake and Josh's first season had 4 episodes, Zoey 101's had 13, even Big Time Rush had 20. But 25? Like, they must have had a lot of confidence in iCarly. The writer's strike played a significant role because it was originally going to end at 40. Oh my god, can you imagine 40 episodes? But 25 is still a lot. This may have prompted Nick to spread out the high-quality episodes and hold some back. Additionally, Nickelodeon didn't always premiere the episodes in the strict order because there's some justified reasons, like the holiday-themed episodes, like Ice Cream on Halloween, appropriately aired in October 2007, but it was actually produced later in the cycle with the production code of 114. The Christmas episode, I Christmas, similarly would be later held to December, but we'll get to that in season 2. In season 1, Nickelodeon was testing the waters, airing the most engaging episodes to first hook the audience, even if it meant Carly's World might appear slightly out of sequence. But if you ask me, none of these are important enough to note. Then we have season 2, a surprise.
All over the carton.
Surprise! Season 2, a supersized order of episodes that season 1 never got, and then, of course, the surprising trip to Japan. We have to note.
Oh, honeymoon couple.
So after season 1's success, iCarly's production ramped up. Interestingly, what we call season 2 on TV was part of a massive second production cycle of 45 episodes. You may recognize that they did something like this in Sam and Cat, where they just made the overall series 40 episodes, but then later went down to 35. That seems like something they tried early on in this instance, but this time it worked. Season 2 aired 21 episodes. The network combined these 45 episodes to inevitably air them as seasons 2 and 3 in a single production order. Season 2 aired 21 episodes from September 2008 to August 2009, and Nickelodeon continued to air the episodes out of their filming order, which was easier to do because the largely standalone plots. Below in Season 2's episode list are the production codes and air dates. So you'll notice the production codes in season 2 are mostly in the 200s since it was considered the second big batch of production. However, they do not run in simple ascending order with the air dates. For example, I Heart Lubert, which is code 207, aired before the episodes that were coded 201 and 203. Why? Because I Go to Japan, listed as the production codes of 201 and 203, aired 5th in November 2008. Probably because they wanted this TV movie to be a special event and they weren't ready to have it be the season premiere. Although someone like me would really appreciate to see a 3-part season opener. Like, what's the issue with that? It was actually one of the first episodes produced in that cycle, but Nickelodeon saved it for the primetime special. I Go to Japan actually drew in 7.6 million viewers, which was one of the highest that season.
Wow, good crowd.
So, thanks to the heavy promotion and novelty of the gang traveling abroad, holding this episode out a little bit longer seems to be the best choice for them. The network maximized its impact without worrying that viewers would wonder why Sam, Carly, and Freddie suddenly fly to Japan, even though the story was kind of self-contained and didn't affect anything else. I don't know why it needed to be that way. But throughout season 2, the standalone episodes were shuffled. Like, I Rocked the Vote, which is production code 215, 215 aired with some lower number production codes, like I Make Sam Girlier at 216. And I Make Sam Girlier 216 aired after I Want My Website Back at 219, which had a higher production code. Oh my gosh, just bear with me, guys. In practice, these switches didn't confuse the audience because there wasn't an ongoing storyline to maintain. Like each week, Carly and friends just had a new adventure that didn't rely heavily on the previous one. But one episode did introduce a major continuity plot. I Kiss. Yeah, the episode where Sam and Freddie kiss each other for the first time after a dispute. A moment that would be referenced later in the series. Noticeably, I Kiss aired in the correct sequence relative to the continuity, thank God. It was code 210, which aired after 209, which means I Make Sam Girlier, I Rock the Boat, that all happened after Freddie and Sam kissed, which is insane to me. Like, that seems like a continuity issue. Like, how was this deliberate airing out of order? It confused the audience about Sam and Freddie's love-hate dynamic, like, completely. So while Nickelodeon shuffled the non-arc episodes freely, they did maintain the order for the episodes with lasting character developments, which is good. Specials continued to get that special treatment though, like I Go to Japan, like especially with I Date a Bad Boy in season 2. The production codes of 217 and 225, which is weird. It appears that Nickelodeon filmed part of it later, hence that gap in codes, but aired it together as a 1-hour special. Oh, so interesting. Originally, it would have been in between a bunch of episodes. They would have had Carly and Griffin meet, and then a couple of episodes would have gone by. They would have done some web shows type stuff, and then Griffin and Carly would have broken up, which I do prefer these episodes being together, even though it's so surprisingly similar to He Could Be the One from Hannah Montana with the same boy actor, but you guys can check out my other video for that. Another one of the 1-hour specials, this entire season was just specials, it feels like, was I Fight Shelby Marks, a crossover featuring the guest appearance by Victoria Justice as Shelby. Had a double production code of 221 to 222, which is fair. I Date a Bad Boy didn't go that close together, but it was aired in August 2009 as a big summer event. By the end of season 2's airing, not all those produced episodes up to 245 had been broadcast, so the remaining ones would roll into season 3's airing order, as we'll see next. Nickelodeon's scheduling for season 2 was heavily influenced by these specials, and that's where we kind of get into more hijinks in season 3. So season 3 is 18 episodes, the ones that aired from September 2009 to June 2010, and they were the remaining episodes of that 45 episode production block, hence most season 3 episodes having the production codes in the 220s and 230s, even though it's season 3. But by now, iCarly had a dedicated fan base, and Nickelodeon carefully timed some game-changing episodes this season, notably the Carly and Freddie romance in I Saved Your Life, one of the most impactful episodes in this season. The airing order and production order in season 3 just continued to mismatch. Nickelodeon deliberately held I Saved Your Life as its production code 232 implies that it was filmed before I Quit iCarly, which is 233 and 234. Yet Nickelodeon waited to air I Saved Your Life later, nearly 6 weeks after. Why the wait? Probably because of the ratings and impact, and I feel like you would argue that the Carly and Freddie romantic storyline needed to come later so that way the fans would have something to look forward to. Nickelodeon promoted this as a special event, even though it's like a regular length episode, and scheduled it for Martin Luther King Day in 2010. The episode drew in 11.2 million viewers, topping its highest episode viewership. It smashed the previous series, so Nickelodeon essentially turned I Saved Your Life into a mid-season tentpole that boosted the show's popularity, and even the debut of the new series Big Time Rush aired right after it that night. So Nickelodeon really wanted you to kind of get involved in their community a lot more, and I definitely was at the time. Apart from I Saved Your Life, Season 3 had other mix-ups, like the iCarly Awards were the production code of 223. It aired as the 4th episode of the season, even though it was produced much earlier, like during Season 2's block, which is kind of weird for me. There's no major plot points in iCarly Awards,
that depend on the order, but for me, I felt like the vibe was definitely a season 3 thing. Maybe because it was one of the first episodes on the season 2 part 3 DVD box sets, but hey, that is a huge confusing issue that I don't even want to get into now. But then they followed with episodes like I Move Out, which was production code 241, and I Find Lubert's Lost Love at 236. It aired in the fall of 2009 after being filmed later in the cycle. Nick didn't strictly follow numeric order, they ordered the episodes in which they needed them to be. Then the official season premiere, I Think They Kissed, directly followed up on the Sam and Freddy kiss from season 2's I Kiss. It aired first in season 3 and had the production code 227, which made sense chronologically. But the dramatic 2-part I Quit ICarly episode where Sam and Carly fight and nearly end their friendship, airing before I Saved Your Life, actually worked out in that sense. Carly and Sam were friends again by the time Carly was injured in I Saved Your Life. More importantly, Carly and Freddy's brief romance in I Saved Your Life wrapped up within that episode. Thank God. It would look like Freddy was a horrible person for dating both girls. So the network had flexibility to slot where it got maximum buzz without causing ongoing storyline issues. Season 3 ended with another special, I Psycho, the suspenseful 2-part episode with production codes 243 and 244 that aired on June 4th, 2010. It served as the strong season finale, and even though one episode, I Beat the Heat, aired afterward and it looks like it's the season finale, I would just consider that a post-finale bonus. The pattern was clear in season 3, save the impactful episodes for when they'll make a splash, but now iCarly was a top show for Nickelodeon, and the network was using it to anchor holiday weekends and special time slots to actually draw people in to see their other shows. iCarly was creating media buzz even in 2010 with these Creddy and SETI storylines, and these big events just got people talking. If anything, watching an episode and then realizing it was shot earlier is something only eagle-eyed viewers like you and I would probably notice, and it's just kind of fun to look at. Then we get season 4 from 2010 to 2011. This one was a lot shorter, and no season was as long as the previous, building to IOMG and the famous crossover iParty with Victorious. So the airing was heavily shuffled this time. The sequence airing was 301, 305, 304, 303, so essentially in descending order for the first 5 episodes. So what does that give? Nickelodeon wanted to kick off the season with I Got a Hot New Room, production code 301. Obviously, it needed to be there first. It premiered in July 2010 as a standalone summer event. In that episode, Spencer accidentally destroys Carly's bedroom and rebuilds her a deluxe new room for her birthday, a high-concept episode with an exciting makeover reveal. A great start to the season, and added an extra location for the kids to make a part of the iCarly identity. So it was really important that it came first. Another one of the cool episodes that came out was I, Sam's Mom, including Sam's mother, played by Jane Lynch. Can you imagine the Glee gym coach being your mother? Like, Jeanette McCurdy, I'm jealous. Nickelodeon likely delayed airing I, Sam's Mom until September to coincide with the new season and possibly bank on the views of Glee at the time as a draw. The episodes I Get Pranky, I Sell Penny Teas, I Do, that didn't match their order, didn't really matter continuity-wise for this. It was more about scheduling around the fall premieres and perhaps spacing out certain types of stories. I Do, for instance, was the wedding one, which was cool to have earlier in the October sweeps. And then the mid-season I Start a Fan War that brought Jack Black on was a 2-part special that aired around Thanksgiving. Its production codes 308 and 309 showed it was filmed out of sequence as well. It featured the characters going to a web show convention, and it was a really funny episode. And they chose to air that one on a Friday night as a 1-hour event. Notably, it aired before episodes with the lower production codes 306 and 307. Clearly, the network wanted to have a strong special during the November sweep specifically. Then following that, we had I Hire an Idiot, which is production code 307, and then I Pity the Neville at 306 after the new year, meaning a lot of these were spaced out, probably to avoid too long of a hiatus in such a significantly shorter season. Then, of course, we have the lead up to IOMG. This is the most pivotal moment in this season. It's what Nickelodeon wanted us to stick around through long breaks of episodes to be excited. Sam unexpectedly kisses Freddy in the thrilling final scene and reveals that she actually has full feelings for him. With the production code 310 means it was the last episode filmed for season 4, so Nickelodeon positioned it as the cliffhanger moment exactly how it was intended, which is kind of cool. And it aired right before the big crossover iCarly with Victorious, taking a break from the intense storyline they introduced. I don't know how they thought we would just forget about that interesting thing going on, but they did. They tried to, at least. And importantly, at this point of airing, the previous episode that was broadcast, I Pity the Neville, had no relation to the romantic arc, and iParty with Victorious kept the production codes 311 to 313 as the grand finale of season 4's airing, despite the fact it wasn't actually the end. Oh, okay, so I messed up before. IOMG isn't the season finale, it's iParty with Victorious. By airing the crossover after IOMG, the network inserted a completely unrelated story in between the setup, and it didn't do us fans justice. I feel like we all could pick apart that, whether we were nerds about the production codes or not at the time. Like, it was something we definitely acknowledged. iParty with Victorious doesn't acknowledge Sam and Freddy's development at all. They just wanted the iCarly gang to meet the Victorious gang and not have too many questions. Probably why the Shelby Marks thing was dismissed with a single quote.
She looks like that Shelby Marks chick you fought.
Yeah, but this girl's way hotter.
But Nickelodeon was banking on this as the summer event from the two fan bases. But oh my gosh, imagine how much space between these episodes must have aired. The extended version of the show refreshed audiences and got them excited right before season 5. Essentially, Nickelodeon sacrificed a bit of continuity timing for that major programming event. They knew people would happily come back specifically for the Sam and Freddy kiss, even after the most anticipated crossover of all time. From the continuity perspective, the SETI arc was put on a brief hold, and that didn't necessarily matter. So yeah, that's when we get season 5, which is a little bit off its rockers when iCarly blew up way too much and probably its peak and fallout. The SETI arc and special guests like the First Lady. Season 5 did another 10 episodes only, which was nuts, airing from August 2011 to January 2012. By now, iCarly was entering its final stretch, and the network had the high-profile episodes ready. The season picked up directly from where season 4 left off, resolving Sam and Freddy's newly revealed feelings in a 4-episode arc. Oh my gosh, Nickelodeon actually swapped the intended order of the first 2 episodes to make the arc flow properly, which is kind of crazy. Season 5 also featured some of the guest star appearances that you are not ready for. The first thing that jumps out of the swap is 401 and 402, like I Date Sam and Freddy, and 402 being I Lost My Mind. If we went by the production numbers on this one, I Date Sam and Freddy was actually meant to be the first episode of that season, but Nickelodeon flipped it on them, premiering I Lost My Mind first. That banned episode that you can't find on the streaming services, yeah, that was pushed. This was absolutely a continuity-driven decision. I just don't understand why we would have seen Freddy and Sam date and then suddenly end up in the insane asylum. However, I can notice it now looking back that maybe they just wanted to start Sam and Freddy's relationship, have Sam run away, and then come back, which adds a little bit of ebb and flow to the stories of it. But this effect was a lot cooler because obviously we thought Sam was missing at the beginning of the first episode, and that definitely gets viewers to watch more. They did a good job building these up to be a much needed event, especially with how eager everybody was to see how the relationship went. Fans got a continuous storyline, and a viewership was strong for the shows at the time, with 5.5 million and the others getting around 3 to 4 million. Notably, I Date Sam and Freddy was actually written as the follow-up where Carly plays mediator for the new bickering couple. If that had aired before I Lost My Mind, it would have been nonsense. After the SETI arc concluded with I Love You, the rest of Season 5's episodes are mostly standalone, and we're back to the normal iCarly hijinks with the next new episode after a short break, IQ. A one-off about Carly dating a smart guy. Not super interesting, and it went on hiatus until the holiday burst of December 2011 when we got iBloop 2, a second blooper behind the scenes special, Code 411, which super unnecessary. I hate the bloop episodes, but I'm not getting into it right now. I Still Psycho was a follow-up to iPsycho, and it's a two-part sequel to the previous episode with the production codes 407 and 408. Then the final stretch in January 2012 saw another airing shuffle. Eyeballs 410 aired on January 7th, and then I Meet the First Lady aired January 16th, and then I Toe Fat Cakes. Here we see 406 airing after 410, out of numerical order. And why? Probably because First Lady Michelle Obama was playing herself. I think that was a huge enough reason to make it a marquee event and airing it on Martin Luther King Day in 2012. It needed to happen to maximize its exposure, and it was a part of the White House initiative to nationally get press behind the usual Nickelodeon circles, airing it in the normal Saturday night slot. So even though I Meet the First Lady was filmed at 406, pushing eyeballs slightly earlier, they all had aired strictly by production code. But the two-parter coming into that new year was I Still Psycho. Perfect timing for winter break when kids are home from school. From a viewer's perspective, Season 5 was satisfying in terms of story continuity, adding Michelle Obama, like there was just so much strategy that went into this, which brings us to the 6th and final season, the last stretch of episodes totaling about 13. Seems like they wanted to give us a couple of good normal ones before they finally said goodbye at the season finale. And even in its last run, Nickelodeon aired episodes out of production order. Oh my gosh, surprise, surprise. Of course, the grand finale, I Goodbye, has the final production code, which is necessary, something Drake and Josh should have done, but now everybody's too aware of the TV shows to ignore this. The final season demonstrates that Nickelodeon was going to finesse this one last time. The first 6 episodes aired in spring 2012, and then the second in the later half. It kicked off with I April Fools, which was the production code of 503. This episode was goofy, it was non-canon, with absurd sketches revisiting early moments, and it was just the wackiest episode I ever seen, and I do not advise watching it unless you are going through something and need your mind to be messed with. So of course they had this being like the season opener, despite being 503. But that's better because I Go One Direction was code 501, and I definitely don't think we needed to open the season with a One Direction episode. They even performed at the Kids' Choice Award that year in March 2012, which was a great crossover and very strategic on Nickelodeon's part. It was probably to accommodate the band's schedule, so it would be ready to air at the right moment. And although it aired second, it didn't reference any prior Season 6 events, so it didn't matter anyway. Then we get I Open a Restaurant, I Halloween. This was just such a good stretch of episodes before its final. By June 2012, Part 1 of Season 6 wrapped up, and it was time for production codes 507 through 515 to get aired. These would be the final batch in the fall. And it was treated as the show's home stretch. They actually marketed I Shock America, which is the 2-part episode, as the start of the final season, even though it was mid through Season 6. That would mean that Season 6 was only like 5 or 6 episodes, which does not make sense. The production code was 510 and 511, and it saw the iCarly gang travel to New York to appear on Jimmy Fallon's late night show, with both Fallon and The Roots guest starring. Oh my gosh, that was a crazy episode that they just needed to fit in before it was done. After that, episodes 507, I Get Banned, 512, I Find Spencer Friends, 509, I Rescue Carly, 508, I Lost My Head in Vegas, and 513, I Bust a Thief were the last episodes to prepare before the season finale. So originally, I Find Spencer Friends would have been the last normal episode, and I Lost My Head in Vegas was a lot earlier. They probably just wanted everybody to have a light-hearted story that led up to the finale, to remember kind of the best part of iCarly before it was done for good. It's really smart to position a finale episode right after some of the show's best material, and I like how they positioned it here too, with episode Goodbye being produced at 4:14 and 4:15, they finally made a show that respected its finale. Nickelodeon finally came through, and it only took them 10 years. This hour-long special fittingly aired in Thanksgiving, their primetime iCarly event season, which I never really noticed at the time. And they made sure to resolve minor threads like Spencer's friend situation or Sam's freedom to go into the spinoff to Sam and Cat, ready to get more episodes filmed. In the end, 109 were produced and 97 were aired. Now, we're not having missing episodes, it's just because some of them were the double episodes and combined specials. But overall, the final season was a very nostalgic last look at iCarly as it was, and as it got sent away into an emotional finale. The network's order actually helped with that this time. So it started out in earlier iCarly being kind of a detriment and not being super helpful in its organization, but as we're getting to the final couple seasons, it seemed like they really got a hang of when they wanted their audience to see certain episodes of iCarly, and it just got more impressive the way they knew their audience, kind of like the YouTube algorithm, if you think about that. That is exactly AI doing what Nickelodeon did way back when. So overall, this show was a very interesting look into production codes and air dates. As opposed to my other videos, none of the shows had gone on this long. Like Hannah Montana was probably one of the longest ones, went on for 4 seasons. Wizards of Waverly Place, 4 seasons. Big Time Rush, 4 seasons. iCarly had 6 seasons. And even though it's not as high as Bunked, which has an annoying production history, I think it's crazy to delve this much into so many episodes. But I learned a lot about how and why they ordered them, and what made iCarly so unique in terms of its timing with everything around it. Not only just Victorious and their crossover events, but with their double episodes. The entirety of iCarly was done in a very impressive way, and despite the quality going downhill for personally me after season 3, I felt like it did a great run overall.
You remember That's So Raven for the visions, the disguises, the chaos, but what if I told you the episodes didn't air in the order they were intended? Across 4 seasons, Disney quietly reshuffled episodes, airing major plot points out of sequence, debuting finales after the spinoff had already started, and disrupting key moments in Raven's journey. At first glance, it all seems fine, but watch closely at the numbers, the production numbers, and the air dates, and you'll notice something feels off.
Aren't you a nice young man? Look at him! Oh, come on with the pitch, not a chick!
This is the story of That's So Raven, not by the plot, but by the production, and what really happens when a network scrambles the timeline of a psychic. Welcome everybody, it's Johnny 2000, covering movies, TV, media, and so much more. The show is largely episodic, so most standalone episodes survive the out-of-sequence viewing. The biggest narrative impact was the arcs. For example, Raven evolving friendships with her eventual transition into Raven's Home, the revival series, rely on seeing events in order. When Goin' Hollywood, with the production code of 333, aired for some lower code episodes, viewers momentarily saw Raven's future goal before some setbacks that led to it.
There once was a farmer that had a dog, and Mingo was his name.
Every TV episode is assigned a production code, often indicating the production season and episode number, which shows the order in which it was filmed. For example, That's So Raven usually uses a format like 1XX, 2XX for seasons. In contrast, the air date is when the network actually broadcasted the episode, because networks juggle scheduling for holidays, special double episodes, or even sweeps weeks. An episode's air date can be out of sync with its production code. In other words, the network might hold or shuffle episodes, so a story intended to be first might be aired later, or vice versa, something called out of production order, and this could happen for many reasons, as we'll explore now. For example, season 1, Smell of Victory with the production code 101, was actually the first episode filmed, but it aired as episode 6.
What want to go to the carnival?
Likewise, A Dog by Any Other Name, with the production code of 103 and Driven to Insanity 104, aired way later in the season despite the codes. I don't know why they would think it was necessary to have these specific plots saved for the end, unless you think the back half of your season is so much more interesting and gripping than the first. But with That's So Raven, the entire series seems to be just gold in general, so I don't know why this was necessary.
I just had a vision that someone wants you to get rid of your dog.
No way. Like I'd ever give up my little Sam.
Yeah?
Excuse me?
Well, you said my name, Sam.
And of course, the holiday episode Escape Clause, which was aired in December, has the 105 code. So of course you can't disrupt the holiday timing ones, and you can't even argue with it. That's why it's hard to kind of go with production codes and air dates, either one or the other, as fact, because some of them make sense.
I'm going in.
Similarly, Halloween episodes like Nerd Day from That's So Raven might air later in October. This makes the content feel a little timely. In season 2, That's So Not Raven, the production code 201 aired as the 9th episode. So there's a trend with the That's So Raven episodes where they felt like they never would release the first intended episode. They just needed to get 8 episodes deep with the characters to get everybody fluent with feeling like the entire season is only a couple days apart.
What happened? We've been robbed!
It's interesting when kid shows try to convince you that everything happens in this time loop, and it's so much easier when they order so many episodes at once, like 20 or 30 in the same season. Episodes like He's Got the Power from 205 and My Big Fat Pizza Party from 210 aired way later despite the low codes, while something like Shake, Rattle, and Ray, number 222, did air last as the code suggested. In season 3, many gaps start to appear, noticeably Food for Thought, which is the code 316. It aired in September 2005 as episode 29, literally one of the last episodes after higher code episode. The 2-part Country Cousins with the codes 320 and 321 aired after the episodes with codes up to 330. At the end of the season, episodes aired in this order of code: 333, 334, and then 332, 335, 331, clearly shuffled from the production. And it's interesting because a 2-parter should always kind of come at the end of a season, kind of like they inevitably did with Sweet Life, where the Sweet Life Goes Hollywood was supposed to be the final episode, but aired way earlier. This seems to be the similar thing. I think this thing with Disney and 2-part episodes is they always want it to be an ideal time, probably to capitalize on all the viewers that are either home from school or just around more often. It just makes sense to them.
It looks like you missed your boat, you know? The train has left the station. The cow's out of the barn. Elvis has left the building.
Wait a second.
Elvis is still in the building?
The episode literally titled Sweeps from season 3, which is the production code episode 311, aired December 11th, 2004, trying to purposely align with the Nielsen's December sweeps. Yeah, Nielsen Ratings is the service that calculates how many people watch a certain show when it airs on TV, back when it actually used to matter. Airing a special and strong episode during the sweeps can definitely boost ratings, and that's why they put these guest-centric plots like the sweeps episode in the key rating weeks. Nearly the second half of season 4 is out of order. For instance, Pin Pals, production code 401, aired as episode 2, before Raven, Sydney, and the Man 403, even though the code is lower. In the middle, Checkin' Out 422 is part of that big crossover. Can't forget That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, and it aired as episode 11, probably because they needed it to align with those 3 other shows.
Put your arms out. Why? Just do it. Of course I'll do it.
And then, of course, we get invited to the biggest swap, episode 21, The Way We Were, with the production code of 420. And the final episode was Where's the Smoke, which I did a little bit of a video on before if you want to check that out. That episode is production code 419, which means it's not supposed to be the final episode. There's still 420, 421, 422. It seems like Checkin' Out was actually the final episode of That's So Raven, even though it wasn't in the air date. And I honestly prefer that. I don't want a season of such a genuinely great show to end as a crossover episode. I'm looking at you, Jimmy Neutron.
How would you like to be my assistant for the trip? Oh, yeah.
Interestingly enough, season 4 was fully shot by January 2006, but Disney held episodes and dripped them out all the way through late 2007. The spread kept Raven on the schedule longer and hit the 100 episode milestone, which so few shows rarely hit. November 2011 was that time. Raven-Symoné's real-life pregnancy in 2007 may have contributed to holding episodes or the eventual end of production, but we can't really tell. Even the production finishing early, Disney filled in the gaps, like an 8-month wait, probably to fit programming needs and keep people watching. The multi-show events really forced the specific timing. The Check-In Out season 4 episode was part 1 of this whole crossover, but how crazy would it be if it ended that way? There's so many mismatches when it comes to That's So Raven. Some of the interesting mistakes from season 1 would be Corey's business-minded attitude and rivalry with Raven slowly developing but inconsistent due to the air date shuffle, and even the theme development, like Raven's fashion obsession and design skills are seated subtly in Ye Olde Dating Game, but not really explained further.
I don't know about this petticoat. It doesn't seem very royal.
Well, unless the queen wants a royal pants stuck in her royal butt, she better be royally quiet, okay? Alright.
Costumes and hairstyles shift noticeably due to the episodes being aired out of order. Raven's hair changes drastically between A Fish Called Raven and If I Only Had a Job. In season 2, Raven's confidence actually does grow and she increasingly uses her powers to protect others, not just herself. Spa Day Afternoon at 2:09 and Radiohead's 2:15 aired in swapped order, disrupting the natural escalation of Raven's school stress, which wasn't that big of a deal, so I'm gonna kind of let that one go.
Guys just checked out the future. We're gonna be friends forever.
Aw. Good, then give me the remote.
No! Trisha!
In season 3, it started ramping up production with more elaborate set pieces and high-concept episodes like Country Cousins, introducing Raven's extended family. Eddie and Raven start having a flirtatious tension, while never fully realized Mismatch Maker hints at some romantic undercurrents. Corey's arc starts to hit his creative side, with his entrepreneurial antics feeling more central and adult-leaning, especially like getting out of Dodge.
How could I miscalculate our profit margin to such an extreme level? I hate myself.
But Food for Thought 3:16 aired out of sync, and it deals with the school cafeteria policy that should have been addressed like way earlier. Going Hollywood 3:33 meant to cap Raven's dreams of stardom, but aired before several mid-season episodes, making her career trajectory seem inconsistent. So air date reshuffling can disrupt character and plot continuity, because Raven's visions often foreshadow events or character changes. An episode airing too early or late may lack context. In season 4, this became stark. Disney aired the finale episodes after the viewers had already seen Corey in the house, which already showed Corey and Victor moving to Washington, D.C. Thus, the That's So Raven finale, episodes 99 and 100, suddenly reverted Corey back to living at home, creating a continuity error.
What is this?
I don't know anything about it.
Similarly, Raven's on and off relationship with Eddie and schoolyard subplots sometimes seem to jump around. Fans have noted that some references to Raven's psychic mishaps or family jokes don't always line up with the air order, suggesting the network's schedule occasionally trumped the story's actual timeline. So if you haven't seen this series before, in TV production, production codes are internal numbers, like numeric or alphanumeric, numbers assigned to episodes in the order they are produced. An air date is when it actually premieres on TV. Ideally, episodes air in the same sequence they were produced, but that's not always the case. Networks had to shuffle episodes, meaning some of them could air out of order, or not how the writers intended. And I found a lot of ways we could piece these numbers together and kind of get a story out of it, a little behind the scenes look. Because kid-oriented shows like Victorious have mostly self-contained stories, airing episodes out of order usually isn't a big issue in terms of plot, but it could still lead to continuity oddities or viewer confusion in some cases. So why would a network air episodes out of order? Well, maybe an episode's not finished on time, or maybe they have to reorder the episodes to hook the viewers, or even holiday reasons. Usually a Halloween episode or a Christmas episode might need to be maneuvered to fit that particular holiday, just to get the optimal amount of viewers. Obviously, you want your show to be popular, and if people tune out early, they're never going to see the rest. In the case of Victorious, many episodes episodes did not air in the sequence they were produced. So we'll explore a complete comparison of the production code versus the original air date, and then we can talk about some of the discrepancies we see between them. In season 1, we can immediately spot that the episodes didn't air in numeric order. The pilot was 101, which aired first as expected because it needed to be that way. And the next 2 episodes, 102 and 103, also aired in order. I believe that's the bird scene.
You see the bird too, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And stage fighting.
Would you rather have this?
But by April 2010, the network started shuffling. Like the Birth Week song, which is the production code 107, is actually aired as the 4th episode, before episodes 104 to 106 aired. In fact, Beck's Big Break with the production code of 104 didn't air until late September 2010 as the 10th episode, and Tori the Zombie, 105, and Jay Dumps Beck, 106, aired in May 2010 out of sequence relative to their production order. Notably, the 1-hour special Freak the Freak Out, remember that from season 1? The one where they're singing for like no reason? They were produced as episodes 119 and 120, which means the 19th and 20th productions of the season, which means this was originally going to be the season finale. But since it's a kid's show, I guess they don't care that much that it's a cliffhanger, or they wanted to have a special ending to their first year of episodes. But Nickelodeon aired it in November 2010 as a combined special well before the season's final episodes were broadcast. So after that special, episodes like Wreck Dies and The Diddly Bops finally aired in 2011, even though those had lower production codes. That means they were filmed earlier.
Get ready!
The finale of season 1 in airing order was Sleepover at Psychowitz with the production code of 113, and is originally listed as the season 1 finale in March 2011. In short, season 1's airing order was definitely heavily rearranged, only the first 3 episodes airing in production order. Nickelodeon really messed with this season. So second season is when it got a little bit different. So Nickelodeon continued airing episodes out of sequence, with the second season's premiere, Begging on Your Knees, as actually the 9th episode produced for that season, the production code 209, yet it was the season premiere. It was chosen to air first in April 2011.
What about your spicy tuna balls?
Meanwhile, the first episode of the second season, Beck Falls for Tori, is the one listed at 201, so they originally wanted that to be the beginning of it all. But it didn't air until a couple weeks later as the second episode instead. Immediately tells us that Nickelodeon shuffled the order, likely because Begging on Your Knees was a little more high profile, more music-centric episode. Throughout season 2, air date order jumps around with the production codes. Like, for example, that episode featuring Helen from Drake and Josh is the production code 202, and it has a new principal, and it aired in September 2011 after a mid-season TV movie special. And then several later produced episodes had already aired.
Well, I'm just stopping by all the classrooms to say hello, introduce myself personally, get a feel for the vibe of the school. Is that child sucking on a binky?
Like that summer 1-hour special Locked Up, that was produced as episode 203 and 204, but aired in July 2011, which is insane because that's the 6th episode, whereas the production code 202, Helen Back Again, was held till episode 7, which is weird. I feel like if it came a lot earlier, we would think that Helen would be a more recurring character, but since it was like randomly given a couple episodes later, it seems like you can't even believe that. Nickelodeon placed the big event episodes obviously strategically, like even the one with Ice Cream for Kesha. That was produced 210, but actually aired 3rd in the whole season, probably to capitalize on that guest experience. And Prom Wrecker was 211 and aired later in May, fitting the prom season.
Dipper!
Ooh, that is some manly rage.
One of the really remarkable swaps was a Christmas Story, a holiday-themed episode produced under Season 3's block with the 301 production code. It aired on December 3rd, 2011, but it aired as a part of Season 2. It even used the Season 3 opening credits in its broadcast, so there must be a discrepancy there. Nickelodeon essentially pulled this episode forward to air in time for Christmas, despite it technically being in the next season. After airing the Christmas special, Season 2 concluded with Blooptorious, that behind-the-scenes blooper episode with the production code of 213. If you know me here at Johnny 2000, I really hate those clip show episodes. They are so annoying, and I feel like Blooptorious is when it got really bad. Anyway, that's not relevant. But yeah, season 3's airing order also zigzagged through production codes, though shuffling a lot less extreme than the prior seasons. Season 3 officially kicked off in January 2012 with The Breakfast Bunch. Has the production code of 302, but it's the first produced for season 3, which would have changed if that Christmas episode never happened, I guess. The next broadcast, however, was the Gorilla Club, which was a notably higher production code, 307, which means 5 episodes, 303 to 306, were produced earlier than the Gorilla Club, but aired way after. Indeed, The Worst Couple and Andre's Horrible Girlfriend were 303 and 304, following the subsequent weeks. So that means Nickelodeon aired episode 307 between 303 and 306. Why? Probably because the Gorilla Club is a wacky, stunt-filled episode that they wanted earlier in the lineup to grab people's attention. Dang, they must have been really insecure about all this. So the mid-season pattern continued, especially with April Fool's Blank. One of the worst episodes of all time that I talked about in another video, please check that out, is number 311, which aired in March 2012, out of sequence to match April Fool's. After a short break in episodes, the network began to air the big music award specials, like Tori Goes Platinum, that 1-hour special about Tori getting a record deal with the production codes 315 and 316, one of the last season 3 episodes produced in general. They aired this special before some earlier made episodes like Crazy Pony 310 with Jeanette McCurdy. Yeah, that was a really insane episode, especially considering they had crossovers on each other's shows now. That one was held until June 9th, 2012 after the Platinum special, probably because it needed to serve as like a final early summer highlight.
It's my turn to be!
And its season wrapped with The Blonde Squad, which was filmed before Tori Goes Platinum. Are you guys following this? I'm having trouble following this a little bit. And then a couple of higher number productions, like 314, were reserved for the next season's airings.
Hey, idiots! Yes, son?
Overall, season 3, a lot less continuity issues because Nickelodeon was a little more careful shuffling. Only The Worst Couple, 303, featuring Beck and Jade breaking up as a couple, showed them interacting post-breakup, which is just really nuts to me. Then we got season 4. This is the final batch of episodes, and even though it's marketed as season 4, it's actually the final episodes of season 3. It takes the production codes 316, 317, instead of being like 401, 402, which means they only really had 3 seasons of Victorious. But we're gonna view this as season 4 because that's kind of how it's viewed online, and Nickelodeon kind of wants us to view it, so whatever, I guess. The first episode of the fall in 2012 was Wanko's Warehouse, which actually had the production code of 312. So it was filmed during season 3's cycle. Whew, this is the biggest crossover. In fact, many of the season 4 episodes, like 312, 314, 319, they were all produced long before, but held back to debut in late 2012. The sequence even jumps around with the Hambone King being 314 before Tori Goes Platinum.
Because we're about to have ourselves a ham bone off.
And then after that, we have the opposite day, 317, and then 3 Girls and a Moose, 319. Oh my gosh, these episodes were going by so quick at the time.
Oh, we know.
From Fluffy Nugget.
And now, episodes 312 to 319, the supposedly crossover from season 3 to season 4 section is just wacky, because they're just leftover productions from season 3, with newly shot episodes in between. In November of 2012, the airing order became a little bit more jumbled as the show started to close production. Like 1000 Berry Balls from the production code 326 aired on December 8th, 2012, and it was actually one of the very last episodes produced. It's probably why it features that big school dance, and it was shown before several earlier productions like 321 and 322.
I'd ask you why you're upset, but I don't care.
A week after Berry Balls, Nickelodeon went back to air Robbie Sells Rex, which is 321, and The Bad Roommate 322 in mid-holiday season. So this is insane because this is when the show was going to completely stop airing.
Grandma, that's just the ceiling fan.
They probably wanted to save that school dance and major Rowdy Cat moment during the high viewership period to let people know the show was still interesting in this early December slot. But after the new year, we had the final batch of episodes. It rolled out in January 2013. And if you guys have seen these yet, they're actually really wacky. Like, they went off on a really odd note. We have Brain Squeezers at 324, followed by the Slap Fight at 327, and then Star Spangled Tori at 325. 5. Notice how 327 aired before 325 in the span of 1 week. It was a clear swap. In fact, the slap fight was the last episode filmed for the entire series, but it didn't air last. The episode that aired last was Victorious, which was produced in February as the grand finale. By airing Victorious last, the network gave the show a clearer ending to kind of go with the show's upbeat theme of saying yes to everything, served as like this whole show's theme, and it means the final air date order was 327, 325, then 323, which is completely out of numerical sequence.
I'm not sad, just disappointed in you children.
Despite scrambling, the writers clearly minimized overt continuity issues like Tori fixes Beck and Jade at 320, features that long-anticipated reconciliation of the couple, and after it aired, subsequent episodes did reflect that Beck and Jade were together again, which is probably one of the most important things for them to have done in this series. As we could see in all of these episode titles, Season 4's broadcast order was a patchwork quilt of episodes and different numbers moving around everywhere. It's insane. So we had the special episodes airing early or late, the holiday episodes went into the times that they needed to be, and Victorious's continuity and character arcs were for the most part preserved. It's still interesting to say that almost every episode in this series was aired out of production order. Disney Channel was known to do this too, especially with The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So throughout its run from 2005 to 2008, many episodes of Sweet Life were filmed in one order but aired in a different one.
You are right. Show business is dog eat dog.
Below, we'll explore each season with a detailed comparison of production codes versus their air dates for every episode, and you guys are going to be surprised with what I've found in these numbers. So season 1 of Sweet Life of Zack and Cody consisted of 26 episodes. You'll notice right away that some of the episodes did not air in numerical order of their production codes. Right from the start, Disney Channel made the decision to not air the pilot episode first, one of the biggest moves. The series premiere on March 18th, 2005 featured Hotel Hangout, which was production code 102, meaning not the first episode. And they also aired The Fairest of Them All with it on the same night, with its production code being 104. So episode 2 and 4 that were filmed were the opening episodes. Meanwhile, the intended pilot episode, which was grounded on the 23rd floor, carried the production code 101, but didn't air until episode 5. In other words, the very first episode they filmed was held back a few weeks. This is likely because the network wanted to launch the show with a stronger, more audience-friendly story and pair 2 catchy episodes on the premiere night rather than the standard pilot introduction. Which makes sense, like sometimes you don't always get hooked by the pilot. Another noticeable shuffle in this season involves the holiday-themed episodes, which is not a huge surprise. The Ghost of Suite 613, which is the one where they're all in the haunted suite, has the low production code of 109, meaning it was produced as the 9th episode, but deliberately aired in mid-October 2005 as a Halloween special. Same thing with Christmas at the Tipton, which was produced super late in the season, which is with the code of 123, but aired on December 10th, 2005 in time for the holidays. These timing choices suggest that Disney Channel held those episodes to coincide with these events rather than airing them immediately after they were filmed. Overall, season 1's airing order was significantly rearranged, especially when it mattered. Only a few episodes aired in the same sequence as their production code. For example, Maddie Checks In, episode 3 is production code 103, close to production order, but the others were shuffled around, and despite this, each episode's story still kind of made sense on its own, so you couldn't really tell the difference, except for a keen eye did notice that episode 5 felt like it was introducing things a little too fresh for what it was. We'll discuss the viewer observations later though.
Check it out! A stretch SUV limo!
In season 2 of Sweet Life, we have 39 episodes. It was pretty supersized in terms of the amount on any TV show.
Holy cow!
And the trend of airing episodes out of production order continued. So it saw some of the most significant airing shuffles, especially compared to the first season, often driven by the Disney Channel promotional events. The season premiere was not the first episode produced. Odd Couples is the first to air, which had the production code of episode 3, meaning that 2 episodes with the earlier codes, 1 and 2, were actually held back to air as 2 and 5.
Oh, this is terrible! What a tragic mistake! Are you gonna want your money back?
In fact, French 101 was the premiere episode, even though it only aired a week after Odd Couples. Free Tippy actually aired a month later, which was episode 2. Disney clearly rearranged the early running order, likely choosing Odd Couples since it was like a stronger opening with the comedic beats of being in the closet and of Zack and Cody fighting and in the closet. Like, it was just really funny.
People, you're in a closet.
What more can you do in here?
Room service!
I should have known.
In March 2006, Disney staged a special programming stunt by airing 5 new episodes in 1 week, a Sweet Life event where an episode premiered each day. So during this week's episodes 6 through 10 of season 2 aired on consecutive days, and their production codes were 205, 206, 212, 214, and 213. Clearly out of numerical sequence. The network likely cherry-picked a lineup of episodes that could run back-to-back for its promotional impact, disregarding the production order. Like Mr. Mosby's Big Brother, that was the production code of 212, and Books and Birdhouses was 214. They must have been rushed to air as part of this week-long event. They must have just been ready earlier, since it was a lot later in the season. This demonstrates how scheduling and ratings really took priority over chronological order. Midway through the season, Disney Channel even aired one of its most ambitious crossover specials, That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, and if you've seen this channel, you know how I feel about it.
Don't hurt yourself.
It was a 3-part crossover involving That's So Raven, Sweet Life, and Hannah Montana. The Sweet Life installment is season 2, episode 20, and carries the production code of 218. It aired on July 28, 2006 as a part of a one-night event crossed over all 3 shows. Naturally, this episode had to air on that specific date to line up with the other series, regardless of where it fell in the production code. Indeed, its code 218 indicates it was produced in the middle of the season 2 cycle as a 2-part episode, The Sweet Life Goes Hollywood, one of the only double episodes of The Sweet Life, which we talked about in my double-length episode video. These 2 episodes, listed as 36 and 37, were actually the production codes with 238 and 239, which means they were the season finale produced episodes. Interesting enough, Disney Channel chose to air both parts on the same night, which is kind of weird for like that cliffhanger momentum, as an hour-long TV movie style presentation, which we all knew it was just an extended episode. This was before the season's actual end. A few regular episodes followed in May and June. Kind of like what they did with Drake and Josh when they aired the finale and then 2 additional episodes. It's ridiculous. But the actual season finale was on June 2nd, and it was called Aptitude, and had the production code of 233, which means it came way earlier. So it definitely didn't air in the order it was filmed. They just wanted to fit the scheduling strategy. They probably put that at the end because it felt more like an epilogue to season 2 after the big Hollywood special, and I mean, it makes sense since it was produced earlier. Throughout season 2, we also noticed a bunch of small shuffles, like Have a Nice Trip, which was episode 219, aired as 18, which is not that big of a deal.
I don't believe it. I know.
And Scary Movie, the horror-themed episode of 228, was aired in October, which, of course, and many of the production codes of 220 to 227 aired after it. And the pattern was pretty clear. Disney Channel often would choose the air date and thematic timing, but none were as bad as season 3. So season 3 started off more straightforwardly, but still featured scheduling swaps as it progressed. In the premiere episode, Graduation, it was the first one produced, airing in June 2007. It has Zack and Cody graduating from middle school, which sets the stage thematically for the 3rd season and kind of what they go through. But the next few episodes jumped ahead in production order, like the superhero spoof episode Super Twins has code 305, but it aired as episode 4 before Who's the Boss, which was 304. In fact, episodes 4 and 5 are a small swap in production order. This kind of minor reshuffle wasn't that big of a deal, and they just wanted Super Twins to fit in that When You Wish Upon a Star night. One really interesting case is Lip Syncin' in the Rain, which had the production code of 318. It was produced much later in the season, and yet was pulled up to air early 2007 as episode 9. Its title and content suggest the musical theme storyline, like the parody of the Singin' in the Rain with a lip sync contest, must have been intentional to match up with High School Musical 2, which was releasing in mid-August. With the Sweet Life episode airing on August 12, 2007, Disney Channel was gearing up for a full promotional sweep. It is possible the network wanted to ride the wave of musical hype and showcase the episode of Sweet Life with cross-promoting the High School Musical. This is a good rating strategy. Being able to capitalize on a trend or tie-in, oh my god, it was definitely iconic at the time. As with the previous seasons, the Halloween episode of season 3 was timed for October. Arwenstein, a Frankenstein-inspired haunted tale named after the character Arwen, with the production code 313. And it was held to October 6, 2007, lining up with Disney Channel's Halloween program, of course.
A great costume. Just be creative. Oh, like Carrie, the hopelessly haggard housewife. Great costume. I just went out for a jog. Why would you jog in your costume?
A few episodes, 311 and 312, were filmed earlier and ended up airing after Arwenstein, but it's because the network had to prioritize a spooky season. Toward the end of the season, which is the end of the series, we see the finale episodes. They aired slightly out of order once again, probably to give a little bit more of a satisfying conclusion and bridge into the Sweet Life on Deck they would inevitably make. The series' final storyline is Mr. Tipton Comes to Visit, where the reclusive owner and London Tipton's father finally appear. It's a big moment for the show, one we've all been waiting for since the beginning of its run, and its production code is 321. So it was the last episode broadcast, for sure.
I'm not cleaning that up.
But you'll see that the episode 322, Let Us Entertain You, was actually filmed after the Mr. Tipton episode. So I guess that would have originally sold as the finale, but instead ended earlier. In effect, the actual last episode produced was shown second to last, allowing the intended finale, which is Mr. Tipton's visit, to remain the final chapter for viewers, which meant the writers really did want this to serve as the last one. Sometimes the writers do know what they're doing and can intentionally align with Disney Channel's ratings, allowing them to kind of have the upper hand in what they want to tell in the final story. Disney Channel definitely wanted the series to end on a more meaningful note, rather than like an arbitrary episode like Benchwarmers or Romancing the Phone, which are production codes 316 and 317. It's a small swap in spring and summer of 2008. The two episodes featured the recurring character Barbara and some ongoing gag continuity, but the swap suggests that maybe there was an earlier episode ready, and the network just saved Benchwarmers for a mid-July slot when the kids were on summer break. Overall, season 3 continued the practice of tailoring the air date to the Disney Channel scheduling needs, but also kind of tried to make it work in the grand scheme of the storytelling.
Thanks. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, so that's where my donut went.
By the end of the series in September 2008, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody had rarely ever aired strictly in the sequence of the episodes being produced. It definitely makes me think that they wanted Let Us Entertain You to be the kind of bridge into The Sweet Life on Deck. One might wonder, like, did shuffling episodes confuse the audience or disrupt the show's continuity? I mean, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody specifically was a highly episodic sitcom. Each episode was pretty self-contained and wasn't really ruined by airing out of order. Therefore, the impact on continuity and character development was pretty minimal. However, attentive viewers could still notice the oddities caused by the out-of-order broadcasts. I mean, looking back in time now, although while The Sweet Life Goes Hollywood was just an episode in the season, if it showed up on Disney Plus and had that as the season finale, I would probably think it was a bigger deal than it is, meaning they didn't really adjust the episode order to fit long-term. They were just focused on what needed to be done then. Grounded on the 23rd Floor was shot first as the pilot, but aired as the 5th episode. That's one of the biggest differences we have to keep noting, with the setting and character interactions feeling definitely like a show introduction. Like, the set and props were different, super noticeable, and even Maddie's hairstyle and uniform looked slightly off to the episodes compared around it. The dialogue in that episode felt a little more expository, like pilot-like tone, where they introduced everything very clearly, and this is when most of the fans started picking up on this. Hannah Montana couldn't have really pulled something like that off, as the first episode was Lily finding out Miley's secret, and that was known throughout every episode after it, so obviously you can't do it with that. Nonetheless, the storyline of the twins being grounded was self-contained, so the casual viewers could enjoy it without realizing it was meant to come earlier. It was a minor continuity hiccup for the viewers, but it definitely wasn't a big problem. The recurring characters and ongoing character threads were interesting though, because Cody's recurring girlfriend, Barbara Brownstein, occurs in season 2 and 3 as a classmate who competes academically and eventually dates Cody.
That's tasty stuff. What a sugar rush.
But in the aired order episodes, Barbara's final appearance was Benchwarmers, where she participates in the cheerleading storyline. If you look at the production codes, the last episode Barbara filmed was Romancing the Phone, before Benchwarmers, according to the series records. She pops up in a few episodes, and Benchwarmers is simply the last time we see her, but behind the scenes, the episodes were shot in the opposite order. Obviously, this didn't create any storyline inconsistency, but it's more of like a trivial fact. It does illustrate, though, how character arcs, and even minor ones, can be shot reshuffled. If the writers have intended Romancing the Phone to be Barbara's Goodbye, that plan was altered when Disney scheduled Benchwarmers to air later instead. So because The Sweet Life doesn't exactly have a serialized plot, Barbara's slightly out of order send-off isn't that jarring in context. There were a few tiny discrepancies, like the introduction of the new character Nia, Mr. Mosby's niece. It was done to fill in the absence of Maddie in some of the episodes, and since Ashley Tisdale was filming High School Musical 2 for part of season 3, Maddie, who was the main character, doesn't appear in a lot of episodes. The show's writers explained Maddie's absence by having her character off at camp for a while. Disney aired those Maddie-less episodes interspersed with the ones where Maddie does appear rather than clumping them all together. The scheduling meant that viewers wouldn't go too many episodes in a row without seeing the familiar character. In fact, Ashley Tisdale appears in only about half of season 3's episodes, so she was absent for 11 out of 22 of them. By spreading out the episodes she filmed across the season, the network maintained the feeling that Maddie would pop in and out now and then, preserving the series' continuity, while fans of the longtime series know that she was in every episode before. The show was definitely really flexible and made it work overall. From the audience perspective, most would not have realized that the episodes were out of order until you noticed the visual differences that followed production news. Disney Channel did a great job of ordering shows that did feel natural when it had to do things like this. Overall, it was a really crazy, eye-opening experience to see the original intended Sweet Life episodes, and it makes me really curious about more behind-the-scenes facts. As I'm diving more into Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, I am kind of amazed at how they made the show work so well, not only with Dylan and Cole Sprouse's chemistry, but making the other actors work as well. Like Drake and Josh did just as good with the comedy duo as the title character, but lasted for like 60 episodes, as opposed to Sweet Life, who aired for 85. A really, really successful run. But what did you guys think of this episode order? Does it feel unnatural, or is it weird? I don't know. Please comment below if you guys ever noticed any of this. Like, it's so hard to note, but you know what I mean.